All right, so today we're going to be diving into some fascinating stuff. We're talking anti-aging,
Oh, yeah.
specifically the work of Dr. David Sinclair. He's a Harvard genetics professor, and he's got some pretty radical ideas about how we age.
I'm familiar with some of his work. Yeah, he's got some interesting viewpoints for sure.
He does. And what's really cool for our listeners,
Mhm.
academics and higher ed folks, is that a lot of what he suggests is super relevant to our lives.
Absolutely. The demands of academic life, the research, the teaching, it takes a toll.
It really does.
Yeah,
So we're going to explore some excerpts from his work, focus on those tips and strategies that can help us, really thrive in the long run.
I like it. Let's dive in.
Okay. So one of the first things that really jumped out at me from Dr. Sinclair's work is this idea about exercise. But it's not what you might think.
Right. Not just like a casual stroll around the block.
Exactly. He's talking about short bursts of really intense exercise.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah. At first, I was kind of like, huh, really? Because, we're always told, like, you got to get your heart rate up for a sustained period. But he's saying, no, 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 it's these short bursts that make a difference.
It's really fascinating. It has to do with the way our bodies respond to stress. See, when we push ourselves really hard for a short period of time,
Like sprinting, for example.
yeah, like sprinting or, a really intense set of weights or even, like you said, sprinting up a flight of stairs, it triggers all these beneficial adaptations at a cellular level.
So what's actually happening in our cells when we do this?
Well, one of the key things is it stimulates the production of mitochondria,
Okay, mitochondria, those are like,
the powerhouses of our cells, right?
yes, I remember that from biology class.
So more mitochondria means more energy, more efficient energy production. And there's even evidence suggesting that it can enhance cognitive function.
That's huge for us, right? As
Yeah.
academics, we need all the brain power we can get.
Absolutely. So incorporating these high-intensity bursts into our routines, it's like a shortcut to better cellular health.
I'm already thinking about how I can work this into my day. Maybe instead of taking the elevator, I'll sprint up a couple of flights of stairs.
There you go. So you're getting it.
Okay, so we've talked about exercise.
Mm.
Now, let's move on to something that's been debated for years, the benefits of red wine.
Ah, yes, the age-old question.
Dr. Sinclair talks about a compound called resveratrol, and this is where it gets interesting.
So resveratrol is found in red wine and some other plant sources too. But the research on resveratrol is really fascinating. It seems to mimic the effects of calorie restriction and exercise at a cellular level, both of which we know are linked to longevity.
So hold on, does that mean we can just like skip the gym and drink a bottle of Cabernet?
I wouldn't go that far. The amount of resveratrol in wine is actually pretty low, so you'd need to drink an awful lot to get the same benefit as, say, a good workout.
Okay, so maybe not a free pass to overindulge, but it's still interesting to know that there might be some benefits to that glass of red wine.
Right. But it's all about balance and moderation.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about another popular trend, intermittent fasting. Dr. Sinclair is a big proponent of this.
And for good reason. It really taps into something fundamental about our biology. Our ancestors, they didn't have access to food 24/7.
Right, they had periods of feast and famine.
Exactly. And over time, their bodies evolved ways to not just survive, but thrive during those periods of scarcity.
So how does that relate to fasting?
Well, when we fast, it triggers a process called autophagy, which you can kind of think of as our body's built-in recycling system. It's basically a way for our cells to clean up shop, get rid of all the damaged components, and this in turn can improve cellular function.
So it's like hitting the reset button for our cells.
In a way, yeah. It's giving our bodies a chance to repair and regenerate. And for academics who are constantly using their brains,
Yeah, we're always on the go.
this could be a really powerful tool to enhance brain health and cognitive function.
Okay, so we've covered intense exercise, resveratrol, and fasting. Now, Dr. Sinclair also recommends something called a metabolic winter, which I have to admit sounds a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, this one might take a little bit of courage.
It involves exposing your body to cold temperatures.
Right. So think cold showers, ice baths, even just wearing lighter clothing when it's chilly out.
Okay, so I'm already shivering just thinking about this.
Understandable.
But what's the rationale behind it?
Well, believe it or not, exposing ourselves to cold can actually trigger a bunch of positive changes in our bodies.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it can boost our metabolism, helps us burn more calories, and it can even improve our insulin sensitivity, which is key for regulating blood sugar levels.
Interesting. I might have to start slow with this one. Maybe turning the thermostat down a few degrees before I jump into an ice bath.
Baby steps, right?
Exactly. Now, let's talk about something a little less chilling. Dr. Sinclair talks a lot about a molecule called NAD plus HALE. I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with this.
So NAD plus is a coenzyme. It's found in every single cell in our bodies, and it plays a role in hundreds of cellular processes. Everything from energy production to DNA repair. It's even crucial for healthy brain function.
Wow, it sounds like it's pretty important.
It is, but here's the catch. NAD plus levels naturally decline as we age, and this decline is linked to all sorts of age-related issues, including cognitive decline.
Oh, that's not good, especially for us academics. So what can we do to maintain those levels?
Well, some of the things we've already talked about, like exercise and intermittent fasting, they can help. And there are also NAD plus precursor supplements available. But it's always best to talk to a healthcare professional before starting any new supplement regimen.
Right. Safety first. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more thing I wanted to touch on: blood sugar control. Dr. Sinclair stresses how important this is for overall health and longevity.
Absolutely. When our blood sugar levels are all over the place, spiking and crashing.
Yeah, like after a sugary snack.
Exactly. It creates stress and damage in our bodies over time. It can actually accelerate the aging process. But the good news is there's a lot we can do to keep those levels stable.
Like what?
Well, regular exercise is key. Intermittent fasting can help too. And then it's also about making smart food choices, getting enough protein and fiber, reducing our intake of sugar and refined carbs.
So basically, ditching the donuts and opting for a balanced meal with plenty of veggies.
Pretty much. It's all about making sustainable changes that support our long-term health.
You know, Dr. Sinclair has a pretty bold statement about aging. He calls it the world's #1 disease. What do you think about that?
It's definitely a thought-provoking statement, and when you consider that aging is at the root of so many chronic conditions like heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, it makes you pause and think.
It really does. You know, if we can find ways to slow down aging, it could have a massive impact on our health and well-being.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this research so exciting. It's not just about living longer, it's about living healthier for longer.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of really fascinating information today, from intense exercise to the power of NAD+, to even the idea of a metabolic winter. Dr. Sinclair's work gives us a lot to think about and a lot of potential pathways to explore.
It does, and it's important to remember that research is always ongoing. What we know about aging is constantly evolving, but Dr. Sinclair's insights provide a really valuable framework for making healthy choices.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question. If aging could be significantly slowed down, how would that change your perspective on life and your priorities? It's a big question, but one worth pondering. And if you're intrigued by these ideas and want to explore more about lifestyle and well-being, especially within the academic world, be sure to check out other podcasts dedicated to these topics. You'll find a wealth of information and advice tailored specifically for higher education professionals. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
Take care.